Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I build and use this table saw lathe. This table saw lathe is amazing at taking all different size stocks, any shape, down to a perfect cylinder. Now it can do this repeatedly if you got to batch out a whole bunch of stuff, as you can just leave the blade at a certain height and it'll do it all in one pass, allowing you to make a whole bunch of parts exactly the same. Now I do have a free set of plans available for download on my website, diybuilds.ca, should you guys want to build one of your own. Let's quickly gloss over the cutting wood into smaller bits and show you all the pieces required for this build. I start by attaching the vertical stiffener / guide rails with several 2-inch construction screws from the bottom. Then I stack a couple of pieces for the bearing support for the tailstock by adding glue and 1¼ screws. I use a Forstner bit to drill a clearance hole for an R6 2RS bearing, which you'll need 4 of for this project. I then use a smaller bit to create a shoulder for the bearing and a through hole for the bolt to pass through. A small section of 3/8 threaded rod is cut and jam nutted on both sides of the tailstock. I use my drill as a makeshift lathe to take the threads off the rod with a file and leave a smooth shaft. I then build out the rest of the tailstock using more 2-inch construction screws. The back support is attached to the body of the table saw lathe, and I stack up 3 pieces to make up the headstock assembly. Bearing holes are then drilled in both sides similarly to the tailstock. I then attach the other stiffener / guide rail by using the headstock as a spacer as I work down installing 2-inch screws from the bottom. You can now see the reason for the double stack on top of the tailstock is for these 4 toggle clamps to attach to. I set my circular saw at 45 degrees to cut out the center to make dust collection through the table saw possible. I ripped down some 3/4 inch Baltic birch to thickness for use as the guide rails in the miter slots. I also cut 2 rabbets in them to lock into the T-shaped slot of the miter guides so the lathe can't get away from me. So we've got the 2 runners made up. They are this T-shape, a wide bottom, and then this top section fits nicely between the miter slot here. Now there is a bit of wiggle room up and down, and because of that I've got these shims, which is 2 pieces of oak edge banding that I'm going to be shoving in the front and back to make this part just slightly proud of the tabletop. That way we get a good contact with the underside of the lathe. Now I have my fence set up here so that the axis here, or the center point of the lathe, is directly in line with the blade. So there's no guesswork. I just press it up against the fence and put it down on top of these, because we're going to be holding everything temporarily in place with some hot glue before we go ahead and get some screws installed in the bottom. So now the last and most important part is we're going to put paste wax all over the bottom, which will make this silky smooth gliding back and forth on the cast iron. So construction is complete. Let's go ahead and show you how to use this. So we've got our blank right here, just a square piece of stock. We're going to put it in the vise, and we're going to drill a center hole with a 9/32 drill bit. This is going to be on the tailstock. It's a smaller bit because, you know, we ground away the threads, so it's a smooth shaft. And then we'll switch over to our 21/64 bit, flip this around. And now we'll chuck this up on the lathe. First thing to do is to get our zero clearance insert out of the way so we have better dust collection. And I also have installed a flat tooth blade, as that'll leave us with a much better surface finish, less sanding that way. With the AT blade, it tends to scratch it up more. So we're gonna go ahead and use my drill with an adapter and a 9/16 socket. Put it out over here. That way we can spin this. Then we're simply going to take the larger hole and just thread it onto this end. And then on this side, we're just going to slide the smooth shaft of the tailstock into the smaller hole. And then clamp these down to lock it in place. Now that won't go anywhere. Then it's as simple as turning the dust collection on, spinning the drill and raising the blade, and then we'll push forward and turn this into a nice cylinder. Okay, a little bit of sanding and we've got a perfectly smooth cylinder. Now to remove it, we just undo these clamps, push this back, and unscrew this. You guys can't feel this, but this is insanely smooth. Great surface finish with minimal sanding. And that's the table saw lathe. Now it's just time to put it away for the next time. And that's where I keep mine, just up here on the wall. Now make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Tell me about your blood type, what's your social security number, anything you want to say. See you on the next one.